international circuit in Malaysia for round 4 of the 2024 TCR Asia Series. Of course, we had round 3 yesterday off the back of 2 qualifying sessions yesterday morning. And the Chinese driver for Hyundai N by Z Speed, Zhendong Zhang, has emerged as the driver to beat this weekend. It was neck and neck during the opening event 5 weeks ago here at Sepang between Max Hart and Zhang. In that instance, it was the Irishman who emerged 3 points clear in the championship points, but it was Zhang yesterday who certainly stole his thunder and drove away from the field. In the end, only won by about 3 seconds, got the margin up to about 5 seconds a couple of laps beforehand. Now we're looking back across the circuit, back towards the airport, and it looks like the weather might be coming in, although from what I'm understanding from down in pit lane, teams aren't too concerned about inclement weather. It is the tropics, though. Anything can happen. It was bright sunshine not too much earlier. 32 to 34 degree ambient temperature. Be a little bit warmer than that inside a modern-day touring car. Of course, they're hardly open these days. It's not an open cockpit, not much airflow. The idea is to get the air to go past you, not into the car to keep the driver cool. There is cooling, of course, in some of these cars, but certainly anybody who competes in this part of the world is well and truly acclimatized to the conditions of racing around circuits in Malaysia. Off to Thailand for round number 3, or round number 5 and 6, as it turns out, and 7 and 8, event number 3 in the calendar. That comes at the closing stages of August. 3 weeks later, back to Buriram in Thailand for the 4th event of the calendar, and the 5th event at Ningbo in the middle of October. We'll see rounds number 9 and 10. And that will conclude the season. It's not over, though. We're off to Macau for a number of invited drivers for a non-championship event in the middle of November. And we talk about young Max Hart, who is did a very good job, rather. I'm just getting another update from pit lane telling me that my weather predictions might in fact be wrong. We could be getting some dark clouds come across the circuit. Anything can happen in Malaysia. Talking to one of my colleagues yesterday, he said it is Malaysia, you know what it's like, it can change very, very quickly. So let's just see how things go. The wind has picked up, but it is what it is, and it'll be the same for all drivers. There's the JVS Group Racing entry, the Audi LMS TCR, and there is David Sonninger, the man behind the resurgence of TCR Asia. He was right in the thick of things from the very instigation of TCR touring cars on an international level. We ran the second ever TCR event worldwide here at Sepang in 2015. I was lucky enough to be on the ground for that one alongside Jonathan Green. And there's certainly been a lot of mileage come. Now, there is the wind. It's just dramatically picked up. Just as we were talking about how the sun had been shining earlier, and you can see it, it is pending. So what can happen? I do recall calling a race about 12 months ago here from Sepang where everything was great. Cars were out sitting on the grid on slick tyres, and then the heavens opened and it didn't stop for 50 straight minutes. We're hoping that doesn't happen. These guys are very keen to get out on track. Karen Liu, one of the stars yesterday, involved in contact at turn 2 off the start with Umar Abdullah, who was having a pretty good weekend up until this point. The man who everybody is chasing is the driver who, well, he set the pace in both practice sessions and through qualifying to start from pole position, and then drove away from the field, including his teammate, the man he's battling at the front of the field for the championship this year, Max Hart. But that was Zhendong Zhang, who he had a lead of 5 seconds at one stage, crossed the line 3 seconds clear of his Irish teammate. But again, the Hyundai N by Z Speed duo were the standout. Now, the third driver in that team, Doyen Huang, for anybody that was watching yesterday, we noted that at stages towards the closing laps of the race was as much as 7 and 8 seconds down on the pace of his teammates. Yet we've seen him qualify. In fact, he qualified to be on the front row at the start. He had an engine change after practice, so that forced him to start rear of field, as we just take some vision there of Max Hart, who was championship points leader coming into this round, or this event rather. I've got to stop saying round. We have 2 rounds per event. He was the championship points leader coming into this particular event, having taken the top spot after a race win in round 2 5 weeks ago. And yes, certainly for Max Hart, it's eyes forward. He starts from the second row of the grid on the outside and has his teammate immediately behind him. But certainly Zhang has been the standout. He was untouchable in qualifying, and as it turned out, despite Max Hart's best efforts, he was untouchable in the opening race. Going back to Douyin Huang, unfortunately for him, we had a little bit of drizzly weather is probably the best way to put it up. It certainly wasn't torrential rain or heavy rain for that matter. It was declared a wet race for the start whilst drivers sat on the grid yesterday, and much like conditions along the lines we have now, although certainly now it is dry, there is threatening weather. Whether it does appear or not remains to be seen. But drivers had the choice then to opt for wet weather tyres or slick tyres. The control salient rubber that is being used for the first time this season as the Chinese manufacturer builds their stock in international motorsport. And for a number of drivers, including Huang, who as a result of that engine change was forced to start rear of field, they opted for the wet weather tyre. Douglas Koo was another we saw going very slow towards the end of round 3, the opening race. In fact, he was lapped just before the checkered flag made its appearance. And that was as a result of the fact that they'd opted for the wet weather tyre. So very quick at the start. For those who were watching yesterday, you'd noticed that Douglas Koo had moved up to midfield in the early laps, and certainly Douyin Huang was right in the mix. Now we have a look at this beautiful Petronas Sepang International Circuit. 5.54 kilometres, 15 turns, and one of the longest straights in world motorsport at 927 metres. The typical turn 1-2 complex, which is similar in many ways to that of Shanghai International Circuit. Of course, both of these circuits designed by Herman Tilke specifically for Formula One. This was the host of Formula One in Malaysia from 1999, trying from memory, till 2017. Of course, also the host of MotoGP. Very strong bike culture in this part of the world. And we will see the 2024 Malaysian MotoGP take place here at Sepang from November 1 to 3. Getting a look at the salient rubber. The team's just getting the tyres to the optimum pressure. And that certainly is an area where teams can take advantage. And the driver we're on board with at the minute, Douyin Huang, he made a choice yesterday to go for wet weather tyres. He started from rear of field. By the close of the opening lap, he was holding down position number 3 and monstering Max Hart, who in the early stages of the opening lap went toe-to-toe with his teammate Zhendong Zhang. The two of them got away from the field but had Huang to worry about. But by about lap 2, Huang started to fade just a little bit. Of course, we went into a safety car period for a couple of laps at that particular stage. The wind playing a little bit of havoc with the camera at the end of the main straight. And he didn't opt to come in during the safety car intervention. Now, what was interesting is Budianto in the Audi did opt to come in. He changed from his wet weather rubber to the Salient Slick and immediately mounted a recovery, charged his way through to 6th position, was absolutely monstering to make a move through on Douyin Huang into 5th position on the final lap. And unfortunately for the JVS Group racing team, they'd made a choice on fuel capacity. They hadn't factored in 2 laps behind safety car, and unfortunately for them, ran out of fuel with half a lap to go whilst in a battle for 5th position, which would have been a very, very good result for Budianto in this championship. Now, of course, we're racing for the TCR Asia Series, so the championship series for the drivers. Then you have the Cup classification. And, of course, we've seen drivers like Douglas Koo, who I haven't quite seen in the field just yet, but I'm hoping he is in the field, a former TCR Malaysia TCR Cup champion. He has come out of GT racing and dusted off his Viper Nisa racing entry. Yes, there it is at the rear of field on the top right at the back there. And it was great to see Douglas back in this championship. But as TCR Cup, it's the man who is also on the front row. In fact, both cars on the front row are TCR Cup entries as the 5-minute board goes up. And it was Benny Santoso who not only took top honours yesterday, but also finished on the podium. So that was a fantastic result. Another 1-2-3 for the Hyundai N by Z Speed operation. This is good news. Great to see the Indonesian driver Umar Abdullah back in action. Frustrating for him yesterday, that contact with Kyron Liu down at turn 2 just knocked the nose of Liu's Hyundai into the left rear of the Honda, the FL5 Honda Civic TCR, and that created some suspension damage and unfortunately broke a linkage. He tried to limp back to pit lane, only got as far as turn 9, which certainly played its part in the racing yesterday, and had to be dragged back, or towed back rather, to the pit lane. So unfortunately for Umar Abdullah, he was the reason for the safety car intervention and could take no further part in the race. He, of course, is in the outright battle. We go back to the provisional championship points as they stand at the moment. Zhang on 132, Hart on 125, Doyun Wang on 89, and Benny Santoso having leapt ahead of Umar Abdullah on 74 to Abdullah's 65. Yeah, eyes forward. So that's certainly the message down at the Hyundai N by Z Speed team. It's 2 of their 3 drivers at the moment who have suggested that that's their focus. The South Korean driver has been very impressive this year, but completely out of luck. You couldn't have blamed him from starting rear of field in what were conditions, unpredictable conditions, to choose the wet weather tyre. It certainly paid off in the opening lap. He was monstering Max Hart by the end of the opening lap, having started from rear of field. And then as the track dried out, of course, any driver that had chosen the wet weather tyre was losing 5 to 8 seconds per lap to those drivers who opted for the slick tyres. We spoke about it yesterday. This is a circuit that dries very, very quickly. And it is one of those things that drivers can take into consideration. You can, even after a heavy torrential downpour, talking about 50 minutes of solid rain before a race 12 months ago, 10 minutes after the rain stopped, drivers opted to go out on slicks, and within 2 laps, they were all but matching their practice and qualifying pace. So that's just how well this circuit drains, and no real surprise. It was designed that way, and the track's surface too does loan itself to drying very, very quickly. The humidity and the ambient temperature aren't going to work against you either. Budianto, thumbs up. He was another one who was hoping for big things yesterday, and that unfortunate DNF was frustrating. And after all the effort he'd gone to make the decision to pit, change the slick tyres and work his way forward in this race, he was let down, unfortunately, by a decision to just work on weight, because obviously fuel adds weight. So you don't fill the car and fill the tank and have half a tank when you come in. You have enough weight with fuel to make sure that the minimum weight that you must be at the end of the race, you're just a little bit above that. Now, that's a risk, especially if you're doing more laps. So unfortunately for the team, they were blindsided by that one. Okay, tick, lesson learned, on to the next thing. Not a lot of drivers in this field have had immense experience in touring cars, and right on cue, there is one that has, Douglas Koo, a local driver, 2 thumbs up, one of the real gentlemen of motorsport, came into the sport a little bit later in life, always passionate about it, but developed a business that allowed him to get involved in motorsport. Classic cars certainly to start with, and then became a big part of the TCR Asia family prior to the pandemic. It was great to see him dust off one of the Cupra TCRs he has in his garages here, just over the back of the circuit at Sepang, and get back into touring car mode, although he's spent a couple of years racing GT cars, so he's very much in the vein of rear-wheel drive, lots of horsepower, and, well, mid-engine to front-engine cars. So he's had to reissue the experience and the knowledge that he has on TCRs to get himself up to speed this weekend. Unfortunately for them, they had a gearbox issue in practice. That cost him laps, and, made the decision, again, smart decision on paper, to opt for wet weather tyres yesterday. Didn't pit during the safety car intervention. Perhaps with their time again, they might have done that. And, he suffered over the closing stages of the race after having worked himself up to the midfield. So we were underway with the warm-up lap. Kyron Liu involved in that contact with the man behind him, Umar Abdullah, in the opening race yesterday, round 3 of the championship, right of screen with the red nose. also part of the Hyundai N by Z Speed operation. Benny Santoso, third yesterday in top honours for TCR Cup. He is also the TCR Cup points leader. We were talking to him yesterday before the race about how he felt. There's the three identical liveried Hyundai N by Z Speed operations, as opposed to the gold and grey, and there's also a red, gold and grey, which is Kyron Liu, the Z Speed Motorsport entry. So all tied in with the same operation, the Chinese-based team. There is Kyron Liu on screen. He is the pole sitter for this one, reverse top 6 from qualifying. So we're going to take a look at the starting positions. Kyron Liu in the number 83 Z Speed Motorsport entry, the Hyundai Elantra N, starting from pole position. Benny Santoso alongside him in an identical car. Then Umar Abdullah in the Delta Garage Racing Team FL5 Honda Civic, alongside Max Hart, who was points leader coming into this event. Doyen Huang in position number 5, and then Zhendong Zhang in position number 6. 7 for Nanjiang, also a part of the Z Speed Motorsport operation. Budianto in that Seoul Audi RS3 LMS TCR in position 8. Haoji Young in another of the Z Speed Motorsport entries. There's 3 of them here this weekend. 4 for the Hyundai N by Z Speed operation. And Douglas Koo, we were just talking about, in the Viper Nisa Racing Cupra TCR. Almost said Seat Leon, because that's how he started, and certainly the very first winner of TCR Asia right here in 2015 was a Seat Leon from Rodolfo Avila, driver from Macau, very popular in this part of the world. Philippe Decombe, his teammate, went on to win races 2 and 3 and claim the weekend. So Asia Racing Team and Seat were the winners of the inaugural TCR Asia event right here at Sepang International Circuit in 2015. But a few firsts. The very first win for Audi RS3 LMS TCR came in Zhuhai with Hong Kong teenager Jasper Thong, the younger brother of Sean Thong. That was in 2017. So the very first win for Audi in TCR worldwide was as part of TCR Asia. Unfortunately, we're in a bit of a rebuilding phase at the moment. One of the unique things about Asia is it's not one of those regions that's easy to just drive a transporter full of race cars into. You need to make a decision about entering a series like this some months in advance. Sea freight, certainly in this day and age, post-COVID, is a lot slower than it used to be, as is air freight. So a number of teams have been caught in just getting cars into the championship. We're expecting a good 6 to 8 more cars by the time we get to Buriram in Thailand in late August. So it's about rebuilding after the impact of COVID. A popular championship in past seasons. We've had some great winners over the years. Michael Choi in 2015, Andy Yan in 16, Kennedy Kasiri, the Thai driver, in 17, Luca Engsler in 18 and 19. As we get set for a start, there is your pole man, Kyron Liu. Benny Santoso will be hoping for a much better start today than he had yesterday. Was stranded on the grid, stalled the car, got it restarted, was well behind the field as they rolled down to turn 1. We'll wait for the green flag at rear of field. Now, behind Santoso is Max Hart. Behind Max Hart is Zhendong Zhang. So watch the right side of screen. That's where the action may come from. But we saw with Kyron Liu yesterday, he's not afraid to take a punt into turn 2. So he could be very, very aggressive. Doyen Huang needs to be careful moving forward. So people have just, we've got 10 cars. So everybody's there. I thought I saw windscreen wipers too. That's not a good sign. Green flag, wait for the start. Left of screen. Kyron Liu, right of screen is Benny Santoso. Red lights on. And we're underway. Kyron Liu, good start. Max Hart, blinded, split the middle, just up the inside of Umar Abdullah, and he goes around Kyron Liu. He just hasn't got the pace. Now he's on the outside. That'll be Zhang on the complete inside, looking to take Kyron Liu. Geez, he's a lot more cautious today. Now 3 wide. The top 4 are the 4 Hyundai N by Z Speed drivers. Need to be very careful through here. This is where we saw contact yesterday. Cleanly through this time. Somebody went down the inside, just chipped the apex. It looks like Max Hart's done what he did 5 weeks ago in the second race and got ahead early, and he'll be looking to do everything he can to bust ahead of Zhendong Zhang. Now, is that Zhang in second? No, I think he's actually back in third. No, he's not. He's in second place. Benny Santoso in 4th position. The South Korean driver, Do-Yeon Wang, is in position number 3. That was the yellow and red flag. Something on track surface, maybe slippery. There might be a little bit of condensation or precipitation rather on track. As Jung knows just how quick Do-Yeon Wang can be. He started from pole position in round 2. Reverse grid. He was off the front row. He's off position number 2. He was outside his pit box. Now that's a signal of why the yellow and red flag was out. They all have their windscreen wipers on now. So let's just hope it's light drizzle. I can't see from my commentary position just how intense it is, but this could have a bearing on the race. 12 laps the race distance, around 30 minutes. So the drivers have got a little bit of work to do. We've seen some spirited racing in the 3 rounds so far this year. So we might get a little bit more of that now. Benny Santoso was keen to be on the outright podium. He didn't want to do it as a result of anybody not being there and competing with him. He's got ahead of Abdullah, who's classified as one of the outright cars in that Delta Garage Honda, and he's holding down position number 4. His 3 outright teammates immediately ahead of him. And he'd like to take this one based on pure pace. So Abdullah's back in 7th position. So there's been a little bit of a change. Kyron Liu has dropped further back. He looks like he's in about position number 6. As Max Hart, who had a fairly big advantage down at turn 4, now has the man who's been the pace setter this weekend right behind him. Jendong Zhang, as we come across the line for the first time, let's take a look at what the lap times are like. So Max Hart set the fastest first and second sectors, but he was 6/10 down in the 3rd sector. Now Zhang is doing everything he can to apply pressure. They did this during the opening race and the second race of the season. They were rarely more than this further apart. And in fact, in race 2, round 2 of the championship 5 weeks ago, Do-Yeon Wang was right in the mix as well. He'll be looking to try and make up for the frustration of yesterday. 5th place finish when he could have been 3rd, could have been 2nd, but he made the wrong tyre choice. Took a gamble, owned up to it post-race yesterday. So we did wonder whether or not he had problems. Given the conditions, it seemed unusual that the team that had dominated this championship so much would have opted to put him out on wet weather tyres, but there you go. He took a gamble based on the fact that it could have gone either way. It was a 50-50, and unfortunately for him, the ball dropped on the wrong side, and he was forced to complete the round with wet weather tyres. Now, Hart's driving a protective line, and I'm not sure that's going to do him any good. Zhang's going to hold him to the inside down at turn 9. Hart's run very, very wide, so carried a lot more speed in. What they've got to be aware of is this has opened the door for their South Korean teammate. They're almost 3 wide. 3 wide! This is not going to work. We've seen this before. Wang's come off worst of the 3. He just needs to keep it going. What frustration. You could argue that maybe that wasn't the place to make a move. In fact, you could certainly add weight to that. But he's made the move, and unfortunately he's paid the price. Is that more contact further back? And we saw this too during the opening 2 rounds. The fight for the midfield of the TCR Cup drivers was just as intense as the fight for the outright. Let's take a look at this. So Wang's looked for an opportunity on the outside, but 3 wide in there just was never, ever going to work. And unfortunately, he's now embedded in the gravel. Down at turn 11, he's got his way through. Oh, it was just one of those things. I don't think Zhang figured that Wang would go around the outside. He certainly did. And what that's done is that's pushed Do-Yeon Wang right back further down the order, back into 6th position. Now he's got to do all that work again. Now you've got to look at Budianto now. What a great job he's done. I mean, he started towards the front of this field, of course, but he's now holding down position number 5. He's got Umar Abdullah immediately behind him, Kyron Liu behind him. Now Do-Yeon Wang is trying to make up position. And right behind them, it was Haoji Young is in the mix as well. So as I say, these guys are very evenly matched in the midfield. And that provided plenty of interesting competition during the opening race. Now, fastest lap of the race at 2:20.3 for Jendong Zhang. Here he is in position number 2 on screen. Hart set the fastest first sector in this lap. He's just set the fastest second sector and was immediately trumped by his teammate by 1/100th of a second, 30.34 to a 30.33. And it's not much under brakes. Zhang is absolutely incredible through that part of the circuit. Very, very impressive under brakes. You can see how close he got to Doyun Wang. His left-hand mirrors bent back the wrong way. So the contact was light, and I'm sure that Wang, in order to not create a bigger problem for his teammates, probably just opted for the safe option and the gravel trap. Fortunately, a lot of runoff here at Sepang, designed for the speed of Formula One. There's the weight transfer across to the front left, raises the right rear, makes the tyre light. Often see a bit of brake lock up in situations like that in heavy cornering, although turn 14 is not a big heavy stop. Unlike turn 15, the final corner. Hart doing everything he can, but Zhang makes up the advantage under brakes. What does he have here? They're evenly matched on pace. The team are watching very, very closely and instructing both their drivers to play it clean, but to give it every effort. This is what we saw in the first round. It was brilliant. In the second round, oh, down the inside. Zhang's got that braking advantage. He's going to close the door. He runs wide. Hart gives him a little bit of room. And Zhang's just dived up the inside again there just to close the door on the young Irishman. So he's taken the lead away. So far this weekend, at every opportunity, he's been at least 0.2 of a second up on Max Hart. Can he do it again? This is where he needs to move forward. Max is just trying to break his concentration. These two have come out of TCR China, where they've been successful and victorious. Here's the crossover. Zhang goes down the outside just as Hart breaks to his point, pulls it across to the inside. Now the threat is always there that if the driver behind you suddenly focuses eyes forward, oh, very wide there down at is that turn 9? No, that's down at turn 6. You've got to be very careful there on the exit. That has been a track limits, a region of track limits violations, what I'm trying to say. So the stewards have been very, very big on that one. Race director will be keeping close tabs on exactly what's going on. So you don't want to be doing that too much, because in the end, that can wind up with a penalty. Now, talking about that slight advantage that Zhang seemed to have this time around at Sepang over a single lap, he is pulling out that advantage. So Zhang in the last lap, fastest of the race so far, a 2:18.38 to a 2:18.53. They're in the 2:16.2s in qualifying. What's interesting, the Podium tyre is the first time it's been run in TCR competitions, certainly for TCR Asia, and yet the lap times they were turning out in practice and into qualifying were within a quarter of a second of the outright lap record set by Englishman Daniel Lloyd back in 2020 as part of TCR Malaysia. It was in a Honda Civic. TCR. Benny Santoso still running there in third position, back on the podium again. That had been his wish before the weekend. I think I'd be hanging out with Benny if I was you. Seems to be what he wishes for, he gets, although he has to be looking in his rear vision mirror because the recovery is being mounted by Doyun Wang. Now, Wang's pace at the moment, he's just turned in a 2:18.5, so he's matching the pace of the leaders. Zhang's just set a 2:17.8. Max Hart, by contrast, now 1.2 seconds down with a 2:19.3. So one wonders whether Hart's just not quite given up, but just conceded that this weekend he doesn't have the pace of his teammate. Zhang just stretching the advantage at the front of the field. So Santoso is doing 2:20.1, so he's 1.6 seconds a lap slower than Doyun Wang. And Wang at the moment is about 4 seconds behind him. So keep a close eye on the number 14 Hyundai N by Z Speed entry, the man on screen, as he looks to move himself forward. Now, Nan Zhang's done a great job to move up into position number 4. Yesterday, finished in position number 7. He was in a great late race battle with Hao Zhiyang and was taken for position on the final lap down at turn 2. So he'll be hoping to make amends for that. Z-Speed team are keeping a close eye on the stream just to see how their drivers are faring. Dayan Huang really pushing hard. He wants to make up for that upset where he's forced wide, avoiding contact with his teammates. There's certainly been very, very pacey since the start of the season, but has not had the luck. Wrong tyre choice last time out. He was the pace certainly of the three drivers during round two, having started from outside pole. Unfortunately for him, he'd started the race mere inches outside of his starting box and was handed a 30-second penalty after crossing the line in P1 and dropping back down the order. So a little bit frustrating the season so far for the South Korean driver as he dives up the inside of Zhang. Looks like he's going to get that position, close the door on the exit. No, he was very gentlemanly, gave plenty of racing room. That would have cost him a little bit of lap speed. But now, Benny Santoso immediately in front of him. So the gap now is 2.5 seconds, 2:20.2 for Santoso. And despite the fact that he probably didn't have the greatest exit into the final corner and a little bit of a brake lock up down at turn 1, here's the passing move, turn 15. Late move to the inside, slight wisp of brake lock up just as he turned in. So he's hard on the brakes. He doesn't want to do that too much, although these races are only 12 laps long. It's not particularly heavy on tyre wear. It's the battle for third position. So at the front, another 2:17 for Zhendong Zhang. Lead out now to 2 seconds at the front of the field. Well, the Chinese driver has certainly been the star performer. He'll be very happy with this. This will extend his championship points, 40 for the win, 35 for second. So he'll eke out that advantage to provisionally about 12 points over Max Hart if positions stay this way to the finish of the race. We've been lucky not to have too much impact from the weather. And you can see just how big an advantage these two have over the remainder of the field. Although Dayan Huang is currently circulating faster than Max Hart. In fact, he's half a second faster than Hart. So that tends to suggest to the South Korean driver of what might have been had he just maybe opted out of that passing move 3 wide, heading down to, where were we at that stage? Heading down to turn, where did that incident happen? Turn 6, I think. Turn 9. Well, we'll see it in the replay. Again, across the line, the race leader, another 2:17, a 2:17.79. So he's just rattling them off one after the other. There's Dayan Huang. There it is. You can't be 1.6 seconds a lap faster and not move yourself forward. Identical cars, a little bit different levels of experience. As he goes down the inside at turn 14, it's been his passing position of choice and clearly one of the most historic passing places on the circuit here at Sepang. Turn 4, another one where a number of moves are made. Even into turn 3. And the brakes down the inside. This one's a little bit easier. I think Santoso knows what's coming. You can see him coming in the rear vision mirror. He'll know from the team that he's a good 1.5 seconds a lap or so faster. Santoso's comfortably circulating in the 2:20s, which is about the pace that he's happy with. He admitted that yesterday. So good job from him, and he's doing that consistently, but he wasn't going to be able to keep out a driver that's, well, Dayan Huang's now into a 2:18 dead. In fact, last time round, he was the fastest driver on track. His fastest lap of the race so far. Podium too is turning in some good laps. 2:19.7, I'll put my teeth in. 2:19.7 last time round. Umar Abdullah with a 2:19.9. Now, Budianto's only 1.6 seconds back from Abdullah and circulating about 0.2 of a second faster. So if he can just step up his pace a little bit more and maybe get into a little bit of slipstream, which will work here at Sepang on these long straights, he might just be able to make a move. So there's position 3, there's position 4. We go further back. There's Nanjian, I think, looking at the number. Yes, it is, ahead of Umar Abdullah in the blue and white Honda Civic for Delta Garage Racing. Behind Abdullah, of course, Budianto in that red, white and black, beautiful livery on the JVS Group Racing Team Audi. Back to Kairen Liu, who started on the front row and is not having a great time at all. Currently in position number 8, circulating in the 220s, but he's now some 24 seconds down from the race lead. Haoji Young in position number 9, and Douglas Koo not having the greatest of times. Pace not where he'd like to be, although certainly has improved. That's not fair. He's not done a lot of driving in a TCR car, whereas many of these drivers have not only done recent rounds, but have been fresh in TCR competition. The 3 Hyundai N by Z Sport drivers and the Z Speed Motorsport drivers have been doing miles in TCR China in recent years. As we say, Douglas Koo has been doing a lot of miles in GT competition. Now, that was a passing move. Budianto, after working his way forward, is still closing down Umar, but Umar's just moved forward on Nanjung, who's dropped back now to position number 6. Ooh, big brake lock-up. Telltale wisp of smoke. There's the passing move. Has he got it? No. But yes, it is the passing move. Nanjung just carried too much speed, got into the dirty part of the circuit, opened the door. And Abdullah said, "Thank you very much. I'll take that position." And away we go. Oh, there's Budianto. He's about to storm through, up the inside down to turn 4. Can he stop it? Yes, he does. Moves across to the apex, does a bit of lawn mowing in the process and loses the position in the crossover. So Nanjung's not giving up just yet. Budianto needs to just complete it. Probably should have almost stopped the car in the corner, carrying too much speed. A nice job by Zhang to recover that position. He's leading the Z Speed Motorsport trio at the moment. His teammates Kairen Liu in position 8, Haoji Young back in position number 9. All young drivers just building their stock in TCR competition. Young driving a very protective line. Budianto, oh dear, yes, he carried too much speed and that was almost inevitable. I mean, Young did what he could to keep going around, windscreen wipers on, as Kairen Liu just gives them a little bit of racing room. That I would put down to inexperience. So it could have been a little bit of moisture on the track too that just stopped Budianto taking the position, but yeah, he needed to pull more left. It was probably unnecessary contact. It hasn't done either of those drivers too much good. Hasn't slowed them down too much, fortunately. But that could have been a mix of inexperience and weather conditions that played into that one. So disappointment to see some contact. Been very tight, clean racing to that point. But that often happens. You're not out there just circulating on the public road. You're actually competing in a race. Now look at this. Nanjung's just gone in a bit deep, run wide. Yeah, and he just opened up the steering a little bit. He may have felt that he had enough room and that the Zhang was just going to run wide, but hadn't realised that the Hyundai driver was rejoining the circuit. Kairen Liu under fire from his teammate. He now jumps to the front for the Z Speed Motorsport team. After starting from the front row and finishing 4th yesterday, he would have been hoping for an awful lot more. Just hasn't had a good time of it today. Out front, race lead, 2.6 seconds. Zhendong Zhang. This would be win number 3 of the 4 rounds so far this year. We still have 4 laps to go. So don't lock it away into the annals of history just yet. He needs to complete this race to finish first. And as the old adage says, first you must finish. I don't see too many other windscreen wipers on, so I wonder whether Kairen Liu's just either bumped them at some stage or had them on when the drizzle was falling early in the race and just been too busy to turn them off. He's got his hands full. No, race leader's got windscreen wipers on, so there might be something to that. The others might have a bit of Rain-X on their windscreens, of course, to have the water run off. There is the race leader. Comfortable again. Has been the standout this weekend. Take nothing away from Max Hart. He was the points leader coming into this weekend. It's only 3 points in it, but he was a race winner. He won round 2 of the championship. He won at Macau last year, so a very accomplished young driver. Formula V champion in Ireland before embarking on an international career. And for young drivers in Europe, there's something to be said for venturing across to the east and competing in the various Asian championships. We saw it with drivers like Luca Engstler, back-to-back winner of TCR Asia in 2018-2019. He's now one of the most accomplished GT drivers in Europe. Certainly a strong heritage of motorsport. It's the family business. But elected to come out to this part of the world and learn his craft. It was interesting seeing a number of other European drivers come out and compete in this part of the world. Rob Huff was one of them for the Teamwork Motorsport operation, racing in TCR China these days. Famous vision of he going wheel to wheel with Engstler down to this part of the circuit many years ago. I think that may have been the 2020 TCR Malaysia Championship, and Engstler showing that he wasn't to be bullied by the man who was arguably the best touring car driver in the world, or the best TCR driver certainly. You could argue touring car driver in the world. And Pepe Oriola, another who's come out at various stages to race in this part of the world. So a great way to learn your craft, and Max Hart has certainly built his stock as a driver of the future. You can take the skills and the experience that you have in this part of the world back to Europe or to anywhere else in the world. There's certainly strong competition all over Asia these days in GTs and touring cars. So a great opportunity for young drivers to build their skills. There's the driver on screen, Budianto. A number of Indonesians in the field this season, which is fantastic based on the fact that they now have a true world-class circuit themselves, and a great way to build your experience. I love the livery on that car, absolutely fantastic. A great way to build your experience as you build in your local region, because Malaysia has a great bed of rising young talent. We haven't seen as many Malaysians in the field this season as we have in the past. Sepang has been a big part of the championship since its inception in 2015. It's the Malaysian Championship Series, which is on the card this weekend. A lot of young drivers racing production cars. This is another step above. Of course, this is part of a true international series, which is what TCR is all about. The cars you race here are identical to the cars they race on an international level, so you can conceivably jump from this championship into other championships in other parts of the world and achieve exactly the same thing. It's been a fantastic formula, and it has certainly bred some very, very talented drivers over the years. And we look forward to seeing TCR International back in this part of the world as part of the World Program as it travels the globe. But for the moment, we're on a rebuilding phase for TCR Asia, and it's great to see these guys still providing the same level of competition we've seen over every season since 2015. I'm going to ignore the break for the pandemic. It certainly has delivered some fantastic racing. And this guy is very quickly making himself one of the stars of the championship for years to come. It's been great over the last decade or so. I've been involved in championships in Asia to see the development of the Chinese drivers. Certainly wasn't something that they had the ability to do much of a couple of decades ago, but over the course certainly of the last 10 years and certainly since the pandemic, Chinese motorsport has absolutely grown, and we've seen some fantastic additions to championships all around the world. Zhou Guanyu, prime example, racing for in Formula One. I've changed the team name so regularly these days, it just isn't on the tip of the tongue any further. Hopefully he can continue his career next season in Montreal in Canada this weekend. But Zhang de Zhendong, Zhang, 2 laps to go. Penultimate time through turn 15. This is pace like. He dropped back to a 2:18.5 last time round. 2:18.7 this time round, so he's fairly comfortable. Max Hart across the line. Dayan Wang wondering just what might have been. Still circulating strongly, a 2:18.1 last time round. crosses the line this lap. He hasn't let up on the pace. Another 2:18.1. His fastest lap at 2:18.0. I'd love to see his overall lap times. Umar Abdullah's thinking, you know what, Benny Santoso? I don't think I want to make this a 1, 2, 3, 4 for the Hyundai N by Z Speed operation. I think I'd like to be back up there again. Benny's got him covered down to turn 1. Can Umar get the crossover? I don't think he's going to make it, and he's going to stay very, very wide here after the dramas he faced yesterday. The run down to turn 4 will be it. The crossover on the exit, he's got good pace. Santoso will just close the door on the exit through that fast right-hand sweeper, turn 3. Oh, I don't know, he's being gentlemanly. He's left Umar a little bit of room, but he's also protecting the inside. Keeps the door closed. What's Umar got on the exit? Can he get the power on quicker? Yes, I think Benny's just run a little bit wide, but we're into the left-hander. Turn 5, Benny's come to the inside. What's going to happen here? No, hasn't quite got there. Benny's closed the door. This is fantastic racing. The final lap of 12, and they're still right at it. Umar Abdullah in that blue and white Delta Garage Racing Team entry. Not finished. He's had a fairly tough season so far. Contact in the opening race, a retirement on lap 1. He's trying to rebuild. One of the guys who benefited from that retirement was Benny Santoso, down to turn 9. Big stop on the brakes. Left-hand turn uphill. Ooh, runs a little bit wide, lost a bit of space, carried too much speed into the corner. This has opened the door for Benny, but he needs to be careful where he makes a move here. It might all come down to the final corner, turn 14. Benny just needs to keep the door closed. Umar's up the inside. No, Benny's closed it again. Whilst he's doing this, he's just losing race speed. So Umar just needs to position himself. We look at the final corner. It's a pity to go away from that fight, but celebrate another victory. Jindong Zhang takes the win number 3 of 4 to extend his championship points lead. Max Hart comfortable in position 2. He'll take the fight into Thailand 4 rounds, 4, 5, 6 and 7. The final corner up the inside. Benny's closed the door. I think Umar's lost it. Unless Benny goes in too deep. Has he lost it? Has he got him on the inside? Oh, it's the inevitable contact on the exit. It's a drag race to the finish line. I think Benny's going to keep it. Does he keep it? Coming to the line. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. And look at that. 5/100ths of a second side by side for position 4 in this race. Tyron Liu across the line in position 7. Nan Zhang in position 8. Haoji Young just coming to the line now in position number 9. And Douglas Koo will be he'll be happy to be back behind the wheel of a race car. It was a weekend he wasn't going to be racing anyway. Great opportunity to get back into a TCR car. He loves his Cupra TCR. I tell you who loves his own Hyundai TCR, and that is Jindong Zhang. Max Hart did everything he could, did enough, but knew he just couldn't match his teammate. And another 1, 2, 3. As we saw in round 2, well, that was the finishing position, unfortunately, with the penalty. That dropped Dayan 1 a little bit further back down the order, but there is your race winner for Hyundai N by Z Speed in the Elantra N TCR. And what a great car that has proven to be. Of course, Hyundai has had success in the past. 2019 championship won by Luca Engstler in a Liqui Team Engstler Hyundai i30N TCR. So what a solid result. We have had another great race, round number 4 of TCR Asia for 2024. Off to Buriram in Thailand, Chang International Circuit on the 23rd to the 25th of August. 3 weeks later, again at Buriram on the 13th to the 15th of September, and a month later, the final round of the championship, or the final rounds rather of the championship, races number 9 and 10, rounds 9 and 10, 11th to the 13th of October at Ningbo Speed Park in China. Let's have a look at the finishing results. Jindong Zhang takes the win for Hyundai N by Z Speed. His teammate Max Hart across the line in position 2, 3.5 seconds down. Dayan Wang, after that, off, fighting for a place with his teammates early in the race, back into position number 3 after a late race charge on Benny Santoso. So it's Hyundai N by Z Speed 1, 2, 3, 4. a great result there. Delta Garage Racing teams Umar Abdullah and Budianto finish in positions 5 and 6. A great late battle between Umar and Santoso was fantastic. Position 7 for Kairen Yu, Nanjiang in position 8, Haoji Young in position 9, and Douglas Koo crossing the line in position number 10. As the drivers head down pit lane, Zhang just acknowledging the many stewards around this fantastic 5.5 kilometre Petronas Sepang International Circuit. Without them, none of us would be able to go racing. So thank you to all the officials that make this possible. Santoso, unfortunately, won't be back up into Parc Ferme in a podium position, although he does take the win in TCR Cup and extends his championship points advantage. So a solid weekend yet again for the team. There is the man of the weekend. Yep, and he deserves the accolades. He has weathered the pressure, he's weathered the weather, and he's delivered 2 strong wins to take a nice championship points haul into Thailand for the next round of the championship. With any luck, we will be able to go down to pit lane at some point and hear from the man himself. Jindong Zhang.
Yeah, on the start we got a lot of fight, and I touched the other driver, but I'm in the middle of the group. I have no choice, I have no line, so sorry for him, but it's not my fault. So, but fortunately, finally I got the P1 back. So yeah, the race for me is fantastic.
So back to Beijing. So how are you feeling now?
Yeah, the feeling is good because I'm a leader of the championship now. So yeah, hope we go to Thailand and we'll be strong, same like now. Yeah, let we see the final result.
All the best.
Thank you.
Okay, now we go for the second winner, second driver, Max Hart.
Max Hart finishing position number 2.
How was your race?
Yeah, the race was good. I suppose when you're the first car out into the weather, it's up to you to decide where you brake, where you get on the power. It was the same for Dong Dong in the first race. I was able to catch him up a lot until it dried up. But look, that's racing. 2 seconds. He passed me sort of fair and square, so fair play to him. 2 seconds, not a bad weekend. We push for Thailand now in 6 weeks, I think. So I'm looking forward to that. New track for myself, new track for Dong Dong. Sort of 11th playing field, yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. Just a big thanks to all my sponsors, you know. These guys, they get me on the grid, so I'm a lucky boy to be able to race here.
All the best.
Thanks.
Third across the line for Dayan Wang, who provisionally now sits on 119 points, third in the championship. Umar Abdullah, fourth in the championship on 89 points. Daipo Fit Ramadan, who unfortunately not here this weekend, the Delta Garage Racing driver, had a commitment elsewhere, was never going to be able to make this weekend. We'll see him again in Thailand in August. Sits a bit further back in the points. Max Hart on 160 in P2, and provisionally Zhendong Zhang in position number 1 on 172. Here are the highlights of the 4th round of TCR Asia. Santoso getting all set for a start. Left of screen, Kairen Yu, who just didn't have a great start. Benny Santoso, a shocker yesterday, couldn't get off the line. This time he gets away, but look at Max Hart, splits the middle and takes the lead. Now behind him was Zhendong Zhang, and he didn't take too much time to move himself into the lead, but it was this big passing move that created all the drama. It was down at turn 6. The outside of turn 6 goes Dayan Wang. A late racing incident between Nanjiang and Budianto. That unfortunately created a little bit of damage. It didn't do their position too much harm, fortunately, as they came through. But at the front, Zhendong Zhang was the man at the front. They couldn't stop him. Win number 3 for the season, an extension in the points lead, and a chance to go into Thailand well and truly on top in this championship. Make sure you stay with us. Join us, TCR Asia, on the social media platforms, and we'll see you come August at Thailand.